Palantir just reported earnings, and unfortunately, the stock is down roughly 10% as I am recording today's episode. And on today's episode, what I really want to do is kind of correlate Palantir's earning and explain why this is very bullish for Nvidia in general. So let's take a closer look in today's episode.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for their subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
All right, so like I mentioned, Palantir reported earnings today after the market closed, and unfortunately, the stock is down roughly 10%. Now, I believe if you are a long-term shareholder of Palantir, you probably aren't too upset about it because just 5 days ago, the stock was sitting at roughly like $113. So you're only losing out on the gains that happened in the last 5 days. But in the past month or so, the stock was sitting at about $77 and was up nearly 60% before this drop. So again, long-term investors, and I think long-term investors are 1 year plus, aren't really that upset with the stock dropping, especially after the massive pull-up. Now, overall, we can see that the company mentions that Q1 continues to see acceleration in U.S. commercial driven by AIP Revolution, and this is their artificial intelligence platform. Now, some might be wondering, Jose, how are you going to compare Nvidia's earnings, Palantir's earnings with Nvidia? And I have this pretty kind of simple chart here. Hopefully this kind of explains it a little bit more. So Palantir, right, provides kind of like an AI platform and kind of provides software solutions for enterprises. Then those enterprises, if you start to see a heavy adoption in Palantir customers, once they get that software application, that platform to be used on their solutions or for wherever they need to do it, they need to move that into some form of AI infrastructure. Now that AI infrastructure can be a cloud deployment, can be an on-premise solutions. And right now we are seeing a lot of solutions that need heavy inference processing power. Now, at the end of the day, if you are moving more customers into AI infrastructure, that AI infrastructure is powered by NVIDIA GPUs, right? So that's the main thing. So if you continue to see customers moving into this Palantir platform, and if Palantir continues to say that there is a strong growth for AI solutions, remember, Palantir is only providing kind of like that software strength, that platform. That solution still needs to be powered by some form of infrastructure. And the more growth you're seeing there, the more customers, it means the more adoption happening by the enterprise space. Now, hopefully that makes sense, right? Because if you think about it, right, we've already heard from the big tech players, the cloud service providers, that there's still huge demand from AI solutions. And now we get to see who some of those customers are. We continue to go down the supply line of this kind of AI market and continue to hit the check mark. Yep, we can see that this is the truth. Yep, we can see that people using cloud infrastructure are using AI applications for certain reasons. So the check marks and the double checks of the AI market continue to give us really much green flags. So the first thing that I thought was pretty interesting is during the earnings call, Palantir mentions that Palantir is focusing on enterprise autonomy with AI agents that can do far more than just be co-pilots. They emphasize self-driving workflows and agents that can handle tasks 50 times faster than humans would. Now, obviously, this is very crucial. We've heard about AI agents from other players before, especially Nvidia. Now, the platform of this is an AI agent means that it's using constant inference in production. If it is kind of an AI agent working 24/7, it's kind of calling inferencing and kind of needs that infrastructure solution. Now, if companies start to develop massive amounts of AI agents and then you have massive amount of companies adopt AI, then you're going to have this amazing demand for high performance computing resources, which obviously most are powered by NVIDIA GPUs. Obviously, yeah, I'm going to probably get a lot of comments here. Obviously, this is bullish for anybody in the AI chip market because the more inference demand you need, the more demand for that market there is. Now, the second one is just the overall, this one should have been the first one, right? So Palantir says that U.S. commercial revenue soared 71% year over year. Much of it is propelled by AI initiatives like their AIP platform. The U.S. government side also grew 45% year over year, thanks to AI-driven defense program. Again, the main reason that this matters is just this is showcasing an overall adoption of AI solutions, where the first one was more kind of a very unique case that gets talked a lot about AI agents. This is more of just an overall demand of AI solutions. Again, now that you see more customers getting into it, you see more commercial players in the United States. You also see a demand strength in the government side. It does provide a strong bullish side or evidence that the AI market can continue to grow, right? Because you're seeing more adoptions all over the place. Now, the final thing is the reindustrialization and manufacturing renaissance. Palantir highlighted Warp Speed, which is referring to their American manufacturing operating system that integrates AI deeply into the production process. This includes defense contractors and advanced manufacturing companies. Now, something like this is more of a AI software system for design simulations, real-time processing, and they require, again, a lot of GPU clusters. And there is kind of a huge amount of things like maybe digital twins integrated into things like this. So these are three things in general, all in kind of different aspects. We see the manufacturing, we see the commercial, we see just the overall AI solution growth that can be seen coming from Palantir. And then eventually those customers need that AI infrastructure to be used either via the cloud market or on premise. So this showcases, and again, it's more of just like that double checking that the market is very, very healthy. Now, there are some people that believe Nvidia doesn't have a moat in inference and that there's other players here. Unfortunately, I want to say you are very, very ill informed if you think Nvidia has no moat in inference. I mean, they have the biggest moat, in my opinion. The ability to connect 72 GPUs together is the biggest moat anybody has for inference. We can see how the Blackwell platform is super, super efficient in kind of inference compared to the Hopper platform. Not only that, Nvidia is also increasing various kind of software optimization tools. They most recently kind of announced the Dynamo system, where it showcases that they are even improving their hardware with softwares at rapid levels. So if you are seeing kind of a massive inference world, the real leader in this space is Nvidia. All right, so before I kind of had more of like Nvidia documents, right? And that's obviously first party information. You might be saying, Jose, you're just believing Nvidia, and there's actually a lot of competition in this space. Now, what I'm going to do is look at a recent benchmark that is overall industrial benchmarks that showcases different AI accelerators. Now, there was a kind of a testing here, and the reason I'm using Llama 2 70 billion for this is because it's one of the only test that AMD has also done kind of this benchmark on. And if we take a closer look here, I'm going to put everything in order. And right now we can see that the number one best platform, which is higher tokens per second, is amazing for inference. 98,000 tokens per second using an NVIDIA B200 system with 8 accelerators, right? That is super amazing. And no one comes even close. Some might be saying, Jose, look, there's actually an AMD MI300 that does very similar results to it, 8 accelerators. Doesn't that mean that AMD's MI300 accelerator is equal in par to inference with NVIDIA's B200? Now, this is the real reason it's there. This is 4 nodes. So this is 4 times 8. That's what? That's 32 GPUs or AI accelerators to not even match 8 accelerators of NVIDIA. And some might be saying, well, Jose, what if you can get those 32 GPUs cheaper than NVIDIA? Isn't that a better win case scenario for data centers? Necessarily, that would be true if you had unlimited powers and if electric bills weren't a thing. But now thinking about this, what if you were a data center player or a data center owner? Would you rather own 8 GPUs to do the same power or do 32 GPUs? Now those 32 GPUs, you have a lot more chance of something breaking. You have a lot more connections that you have to work with. You have a lot more networking solutions. You have to power them a lot more. You have to worry a lot more with cooling and efficiency. So that's the total cost of ownership in the long term of things. So NVIDIA right here in this benchmark showcases easily why it's the leader in the inference space. So anything that has to do with inference, I do believe Nvidia has a massive, massive moat. Now, that's pretty much all I have for Nvidia and Palantir. Again, I thought that was pretty interesting. There are some other updates though that I want to cover. First, we did see that there was a massive discussion going online about Taiwanese currency versus US dollar is surging dramatically and could hurt PCs and components pricing. So I first thought that, hey, look, this is maybe just some weird news that, every time you hear some massive return, it looks crazy in the short term, but when you do kind of a long-term chart, it doesn't look that bad. And actually, that's not the case here. If you look at the long-term chart here that goes back to about 2006, it's actually pretty low, right? I mean, it's actually been very, very volatile. Now, I don't know. I'm not an expert in this. I just want to bring it up so maybe someone is an expert in this. But in theory, right, this is the United States to the new Taiwanese dollar. In theory, if this is getting lower, that means the new Taiwan dollar is getting heavier or the United States dollar is getting weaker. Now, the main reason this would be impactful is because a lot of the semiconductor market does business in Taiwan, right? TSMC, for example. So if the new Taiwan dollar goes higher, then the companies that are trying to pay TSMC now they need to spend more US dollars. So in the long term, in the short term, it could hit margins. Again, that's just like a very top level overview, right? Because now you need more US dollars to pay roughly the same amount of new Taiwan dollar that you did before. And obviously, you can see how that could impact the overall supply chain in the semiconductor market, how it can hit margins as there are a lot of AI server makers that are Taiwan based. You also have a lot of TSMC, which is a manufacturing player there. And I'm pretty sure you have a lot of advanced packaging solutions that are also coming from Taiwan. So again, I'm no expert here to tell you how this is going to really affect. I just could see the top level effect that makes perfect sense. But how it would react to the stock, I'm not 100 completely sure, but I still wanted to bring that news to you, to the viewers. Not something I would be completely worried about at the moment, though. I'm pretty sure all these companies have ways to kind of fix certain things like this or have certain hedges around certain things like this. But it is something that we are going to be monitoring in this channel for a bit. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Take care, have a good day, and see you all next time.